Hello, everybody, and welcome to the media show on the Podtv network. I'm Nick Pellevitt. I'll be your host for today's show. And today's show, we're going to look at some of the new shows that are on the Podtv network. And with that, Irene is coming up next, so she's probably not going to be on here. But we'll bring in one of our new shows here that you've probably seen on the network, Medicine and Science. We actually have the person who's the star of the show, Dr. Michael Patmos. Dr. Patmos, welcome to the media show. Can you explain to your audience a little bit about the new show that's on the Podtv network, what you discuss in Medicine and Science?
Good morning, Nick. Thank you and welcome to your audience. It's always a privilege. I am not wearing a white coat today because I am on Kauai and my wife.
You don't have to today.
My wife and I are going scuba diving in just a few minutes. So we're a little bit on the relaxed side today. So the program that I've been blessed to participate in, thanks to you, is a discussion of topics related to science and medicine. And we have focused very heavily on issues related to COVID and COVID misinformation, vaccine misinformation. And so that's been really exciting for me. I've enjoyed doing these presentations, and hopefully we're helping to educate people and correct some of the gross misinformation that's floating around out there.
Right. Yeah, well, I was thinking about the cancer vaccines that we were discussing last time. That could be a big game changer, but also could have some negative effects, and that the baby boomer generation lives longer, because if they actually are able to cure cancer, which is the second leading cause of death, then people could live longer, which means it puts more of a strain on Social Security and Medicare, which I was going to bring up with David Walker on the earlier show, but we didn't get into it. May do a special on that. Because our economic system, as we well know, at least today, Social Security runs out of money in 9 years, and Medicare runs out of money at the end of this decade. So what are your thoughts on that? Are we going to have a problem?
It is a problem. It's already a problem. You know, if you go back to the turn of the 20th century, just 120 years ago, average life expectancy in the United States was around 45 to 50 years. If you were 65 years old, you were really old back in 1900. And now the life expectancy has increased, and it's now, roughly 75 to 80 years. Now, it took a little bit of a hit with COVID. Reduced life expectancy in the United States actually went down a little bit. But the point is, people live about nearly twice as long today as they did 120 years ago. And the age, the choice of 65 for retirement age was really arbitrary. And from what I understand, it was chosen because 90% of people would be dead by the time they reach age 65. And now it's changing. People live much longer. And there is, however, a finite limit to the lifespan. It's not limitless, but I think we will see, with increasing, especially if these cancer vaccines bring to fruition that which is expected, we could see more people living well into their 80s, 90s, and even 100.
Yeah. Well, as I checked, the average life expectancy in Spain is 84. So with just minor adjustments, we can see some problems in the U.S. as people tend to live longer. Brought in Rick Rosner, who also has a show in the evening called Naked at Night. Tell us what the developments on that show is, Rick.
The show is, I'm very liberal, though not crazy liberal. And then my opponent is Lance, who's I consider crazy conservative. And we call each other jackasses and yell at each other. And initially, I thought this would be funny because I've been an art model and Lance is a very good artist. And I thought it would be funny for a naked art model to be yelling at the artist. But first off, we keep my pants on, so you don't have to worry about that. And second, we've been doing it for 8 years, a couple of years on your network. But what I thought was funny is now just sad and depressing.
Yeah. But you also were a writer for Jimmy Kimmel. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, Jimmy, and I've signed an NDA, so I can't talk too much about that. But but in general, a talk show host wants to be politically neutral because you don't want to alienate half of your potential audience. But some things have happened in the past, 8 years that, for one thing, a guy used a bump stock weapons to wound 500 people from a hotel room in Vegas. He shot 500 people, killing like 58 of them. And Vegas is Jimmy's hometown. And that wounded Jimmy deeply. And it really pissed him off. And because that's his hometown, that's his people who are getting killed. So he came out, against that kind of. So but events have pushed Jimmy to more identify with anti-Trumpers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We also have then from Gamers Den, but I'm not sure if he's in all the way, is Jacoby McDuffie. But Jacoby, I don't know where you're beaming in from, but you're on mute, by the way, so you have to unmute yourself. Tell us a little about Gamers Den, where it stands.
Well, right now, Gamers Den is still in flux because we're due to not only the politics and everything else going on. Right now, it's just a matter of figuring out where AI is going, because AI has been a part of gaming for years. But then on top of that, the gaming industry, for example, the politics around China. Tencent is actually a Chinese company. Tencent owns many actual companies or actually has stake in many of the companies in the U.S., which people don't really realize. But Tencent has also been just a fine company. On top of that, then you also have Bitcoin, and you also have NVIDIA. NVIDIA is a huge player in the gaming world. You have Microsoft. You have Apple, who just recently announced that they're having a partnership with ChatGPT, which in turn upset Elon Musk. Elon said that he doesn't want any Apple products at his factories, and he's not going to hire anybody who owns an Apple product now because of ChatGPT, which is weird because Elon was the one that put the kibosh on AI at Tesla because he wanted more money. But yeah, there's just so many topics happening at this time. I'm just having a fun time and a frustrating time trying to nail down which topics I want to truly cover in Gamers Den.
So there's an overlap between Michael's medical show and your AI topic, which is they're now we know that AI is good at drawing pictures. We've all seen the art AI does. AI is also good at drawing immune cells. But for immunology, they can pull, everybody's got their own personal cancer cells when they have cancer, and they pull the cancer cells out. They have AI take a look, and it draws or it designs the genes that they can plug into your antibodies so it's able to grab your personal cancer cells.
I mean, AI is really a huge thing. For example, right now, people are taking and creating HTML games right now utilizing AI. Everybody was so fascinated by ChatGPT's Sora product. However, Sora hasn't been released yet. Kling is another one that's coming out of China. I think it's Japan. It's either China or Japan, one of them. But that one right now is going to be a huge rival in terms of the abilities of the actual AI product. And yes, people have already created music videos utilizing AI. There's Leonardo AI, which is actually another one. I mean, everybody, there's just so many products out at this moment, so many things that are out there AI wise. Khan Academy, they're also using AI in some of their teaching tools, but they're a big advocate of having actual physical teachers in the classroom still. But it's just a fascinating world right now. We are really on the precipice of a lot of really neat things in technology.
But also weird things. Like
very true.
Michael mentioned that, you can, the oldest people who ever lived, you can't get past like 120, but we're going to start busting that in weird ways. Like right now, Rupert Murdoch is a billionaire. He's 93 years old. He still likes to get laid. He just got engaged for like the 6th time. And so Rupert Murdoch, in 5 years, his brain is turning to mush, but he's replacing it with AI biocircuitry. And then he goes to court saying, yeah, my brain is half artificial now, but I am still me. And I should still, and it's going to be weird.
The cool part, if you think about it, and honestly, this is where gaming was ahead of the times in terms of a lot of this stuff. They were truly the canary in the coal mine around this whole AI. What you're talking about right there, and what Elon Musk is the Neuralink, which is his big thing. However, there are multiple companies doing the same exact thing. There was a game called Deus Ex. Deus Ex was written by the same company or created by the same game developer, CD Projekt Red, which did the Witcher games. That game talked about the same thing you're talking about your brain being part machine and your body being part machine, and you being able to utilize different upgrade parts. They then created a game called Cyberpunk 2077, which came out. When it came out, they had a lot of upgrade issues that they had to do with it. But the storyline itself, again, was about a world in the future where, half of your brain or half of your body was robotic. It was, you really had that whole Android mentality where you could buy upgrades, fix your arm by getting nanotechnology in the brain. It's very fascinating. They do a great job with their storylines.
Okay. Dr. Patmos, what are your thoughts about this? Are we going to see changes in medicine where AI is going to distribute more nanotechnology into our system?
I am not the world's authority on AI, but I can tell you what I heard when I was in Boston at a course at Harvard Medical School just 6 months ago. And they identified 5 key trends in medicine. These are professors at Harvard Medical School talking about the top 5 key trends in healthcare in the last couple of years. And AI was one of the 5 emerging important trends. And what was said, there's a quote that I took from this that really stuck with me. They said, for doctors who fear that AI will put them out of business, fear not. Doctors will not be put out of business by AI. Only those who don't use AI will be put out of business by AI. So artificial intelligence is already at work in healthcare and in medicine. And it is a tool that assists doctors in processing through the volume of information that they have to process when trying to, solve a clinical dilemma and determine appropriate treatment. So I see AI, it's coming, it's in medicine, it's coming even more so as time goes by, and it's going to change how doctors practice. And I think it's a tool that we can use to help us make better diagnoses, get it right more often than we do now.
So I ask my doctors what AI is doing for them. Some say, well, nothing yet. But one doctor said it writes my emails for me. So when I bug my doctor with BS, like, that authorization for that visit didn't go through, which a doctor shouldn't spend time on, he can do some little thing and have AI try to get that visit reauthorized, gives you more time to do actual medicine.
From what, and again, I am no expert on this, but I remember one of the areas which at this course that I took, they talked about an application of AI is in imaging. Imaging is now a highly computerized thing. It's not the old X-ray box, like they had years ago. It's now imaging is very sophisticated, high tech, PET scanning, MRI scanning, and so forth. And AI is now very much a part of the imaging technology. And that's as much as I know about AI in medicine.
Are we going to see more of that in the vaccine world in terms of vaccine developments using artificial intelligence?
I really, that would be real total speculation on my part. I suppose, yes, because we're in a new world with vaccines now where we're able to develop very quickly because of mRNA. And the reason why mRNA got the Nobel Prize, Dr. Carrico and Weissman, who invented it, they got the Nobel Prize because it allows for rapid development of vaccines based upon mRNA sequencing. And so that's very specific. So and that can be done very quickly. So we're in a whole new era of vaccine science. And as far as, I suppose artificial intelligence is at work there too.
On a fun note, staying in, I guess, the AI and the gaming world, there was actually a game that got put out a couple of years ago, about 10 years ago. Then they redid it again, called The Last of Us, and then The Last of Us Part 2. Then they actually did a film around it. And since we were just talking about vaccines, the premise behind The Last of Us is basically it's a post-apocalyptic world in a sense where a fungus rather than a virus actually took over and caused the actual dead and the Walking Dead per se. But they took the notion from the thought that, like the zombie deer and how fungus can affect the brain in multiple different animals. And what they talked about in the film, which I thought was film and show, which I thought was fascinating, especially dealing with viruses. And this goes back to the idea of games being that canary in the coal mine. They talked about how dealing with things like the zombie deer and how a fungus can affect the brain. And we're living in a world that's slowly warming, and how fungus right now cannot truly work in humans because of the temperature, but based on the world warming up, that fungus is slowly learning the same way that the world is learning and becoming able to adapt to that heat. So therefore, that fungus goes into the brain, and you can't really do anything if a fungus affects the brain. Since there is a doctor here, and based on that theory that they have, is that something that is a possibility? Because the like I said, the notion that amoxicillin is going away because that's based on, I think, a fungus as well. Is that something that could happen?
Well, we're into the zone of speculation here. But, but what I would say is fungi are, before I was a doctor, I was a biologist. Fungi are ubiquitous. Fungi are everywhere on the planet. There's nowhere you can go without finding evidence of fungal spores and fungal life. And fungi are a normal part of our ecosystem, and they are decomposers. They break down organic material and recycle it. They're part of our recycling system. We already have fungi that can infect humans and do infect humans every day. The vaginal yeast infection is a fungal infection. Athlete's foot is a fungal infection. So humans are affected by fungi all the time. And there's also systemic and disseminated fungal infections that people can get. Typically, you'll see that in immunocompromised patients or patients on chemotherapy or patients who have profoundly weakened immune systems for one reason or another. They can get a fungal infection intravascularly that can spread throughout the body and into the brain. There are fungal infections of the brain now. And as far as the impact of climate change and fungal infections, that would just be wild speculation on my part. But climate change affects a lot of things, and I suppose it certainly could. But we already have, and from the beginning of time, I think fungal infections have been an issue for mammals and other animals. We're not immune. We all get fungal infections.
So I'm going to correct me if I'm wrong about this, but it seems like one of the main functions of our genes is to instruct the body how to build parts, how to build muscle cells, and that with medicine, a lot of the parts we've needed we find by accident. That when we find antibiotics, it's something that helps grow substances that mesh up against the stuff that's making us sick and help us take out those things. And now with AI, we don't have to rely on accident. We can we can use AI to build parts in whatever shape we need, and we might be able to build like little nanobot crawlers that go through our digestive system or our circulatory system and look for stuff.
I suppose you're right, Rick.
Are we going to see that much change in the next 5 to 10 years, Dr. Patmos? I mean, is this something that our kids and grandkids need to know more about, medicine and science?
Let me tell you something, just a general principle in medicine. The rate of change in healthcare and medicine is approaching the speed of light. 50% of what you learn in medical school is obsolete by the time you finish your residency program. So that's how fast things change in healthcare. During COVID, a lot of the critics said, the CDC, they're just changing their recommendations all the time. They're incompetent. No, the pace of medical knowledge changes that fast. Literally, medicine changes by the day. And so for a doctor, if you want to know how to treat a fungal infection or any condition, it literally may be different today than it was yesterday.
And here's an article from 2023 that says the amount of medical knowledge is said to double every 73 days, which is 1/5 of a year. So after a year, you've got 32 times as much information as you did a year ago.
And that's really hard for doctors, because how on earth can you keep up with this if you're a practicing physician? You really can't. So doctors have to know where to go for the best and latest current information that is up to date and made up to date in real time. And that's not easy to do. There is a tool for that. It's called, ironically, Up to Date. And if doctors use Up to Date, if they have a question, they can log into Up to Date, put in their question, and up will come information that is accurate, correct, vetted, scanned, screened. All the junk science is thrown out and all the good stuff remains. And so there is a tool for doctors to do that. But this is a very big challenge in healthcare. We have a lot of doctors who are operating under misinformation. They're getting I'm sorry to say this, but we have doctors who seem to be getting their information from social media rather than from Up to Date. They're getting their guidelines from Fox News instead of from the Infectious Disease Society of America. So we have a real problem with vetting information, and in light of the rapidity with which information is changing, this is a big challenge.
One of the things your show does is talk about misinformation around vaccines and COVID. And one of the accusations, like against Fauci, is, well, he was lying. He said this in 2020, and then he said this in 2021. So he must have been lying. And no, it's because COVID was a brand new disease and more information kept flooding in, and people had to change their recommendations. They weren't lying. It's not a conspiracy.
Exactly.
Then why didn't you tell us that?
He did. I mean, physicians
no. Sorry, Doc. Sorry, greatest respect. I've met you before. Greatest respect for you. I'm in finance. All of my family's in medicine. Greatest respect to you. Okay. Mass media and social media companies did not give us the information. They know that they didn't give us the information. It's one thing to look at this from an American perspective. Let's look at this from an international perspective. In 2020, I came onto one of these Podtv podcasts, and I asked a question. That's all I did. I just asked a question. Here's what I said. In Australia, we have different states and territories, and the state health ministers are telling us something different to what the federal health minister is telling us. Many of us are prepared to take the vaccine, but many of us travel to the United States. Now, we've just had a report out of Canada where the Canadian health authorities said you can take the Pfizer vaccine and then take a Moderna booster or vice versa, and you'll be fine. You'll be covered. Here in Australia, where we had the AstraZeneca, we were told, don't worry about what's happening in the US, just take the AstraZeneca. Well, guess what? Those Canadians that took the Pfizer and then the Moderna, or the other way around. Those Australians and New Zealanders that took the AstraZeneca, when we went to the United States, we were told, oh, actually, you're not vaccinated by our rules. And then the governments of those countries said, well, it's private enterprise. If they say you have to have had a particular vaccine, this brand of vaccine, not the other one, okay, well, that's what you've got to do. So we go back home and we're like, hey, like, I don't want the Moderna. I don't want the AstraZeneca. I want the vaccine that the Americans say I'm supposed to have. And our health authorities said, no, 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 trust the science. So I brought that up on the show. And I said, what are we supposed to do? When people around the world are looking at this, we're all terrified. None of us know what we're supposed to do. And all of these different health authorities around the world are telling us different things. What are we supposed to do? Well, guess what happened? Nick rings me and says, hey, you better lay off on questioning what's happening with the COVID vaccines because we got a strike. I'm like, what do you mean you got a strike? We got a strike because I asked a question about what I'm supposed to do. You're telling me that I'm supposed to trust government, I'm supposed to trust the health authorities, and my state health authority is telling me something different to the federal health authority, and my federal health authority is telling me something different to the US health authority, and the US health authority is telling me something different to the Canadian health authority. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And the answer was, shut up or we'll take you offline. Can you guys understand why the members of the public might be just a little bit upset or might be a little bit like, hey, you know what? We don't trust you anymore.
Okay, so just a quick comment because I know we're running short on time here. From a physician standpoint, nothing in the media is correct. Nothing on social media is correct. Doctors don't get any information. We don't even listen to that stuff. That's not where we go for information. Whatever's presented, and I can understand why the general public would be terribly confused by all this because the media is completely confused by it. Having said that, there's an opportunity to increase coordination in pandemic response around the world, which is exactly what the World Health Organization is trying to do. And there were different recommendations from different countries who are all independent entities, and they might look at the data and decide to go one direction or the other. In the United States, we went with the mRNA vaccines because they are proven to be safer and better, and Pfizer and Moderna are essentially interchangeable. AstraZeneca vaccine didn't catch on in the United States because it right away showed some safety signals and didn't experience widespread use here. But I appreciate your point, and I think for the layperson, if you're tuning in to Fox News and CNN and getting information from social media, boy, you're going to be confused because you're going to get a lot of misinformation. I blame a lot of that on the media. But within healthcare, within science, physicians don't go to those sources. That's not where we get our information from.
So I have a medical question for you. So we're in the middle or at the beginning of a pretty big a COVID spike as big as there's ever been with the flirt variations. But people aren't dying like they were. What's the deal?
That's a great question. So I am seeing patients, I still see patients every day, largely now in telemedicine because it's a technology-based medium. And I see patients with COVID every single day. It's still out there, and I'm still seeing it every day. And yes, what has happened now is because of the amount of COVID that's been out there, because of the fact that about 40% of the population in the United States is immunized, we're building a wall of immunity. And as the virus mutates, it's random. It could mutate into a less virulent form or a more virulent form. It's all just a matter of random chance. Right now, flirt is more contagious and spreading pretty rapidly, but it doesn't appear to be as virulent as the original strain because there is a fair amount of a wall of immunity that has been built up within the population.
So
Dr. Pappas, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, Dr. Pappas, with the greatest respect, there is no, as far as I'm aware, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there is no virus that we're aware of that has become stronger over time. They all become weaker. But let me ask you this. You're shaking your head. Do you swear that?
I don't believe that. I will follow up subsequently after this.
Well,
give me a little chance to do the research.
Well, you can't think of one off the top of your head, right? Because it's really rare. right?
Doctors shouldn't think off the top of their head. They should investigate the literature. Let me look into the literature and see what I can find.
Okay, but media and the government, they shot from the top of their head and said, hey, you mustn't do this and you must do that. They did that, and they told us they were doing that on medical advice. So if Dr. Fauci is some saint, why exactly is it that the rest of us who have a problem with some of the extreme measures that were taken on the basis of medical advice, why shouldn't we sit there and say, sorry, but you guys didn't give us the information. You wouldn't let us ask any questions. You took us offline when we did ask questions, and we don't trust you. This isn't directed at you personally, but why shouldn't the rest of us go, hey, like we've got some questions here. Sorry.
Okay, so let me just say, I've added. I'm a board certified internal medicine physician with added qualifications in infection control and hospital epidemiology. My perspective, none of the recommendations that were made were extreme. They were entirely appropriate. Masking, social distancing, shutting things down, stopping travel, international travel, were all necessary and appropriate. And it's not that we overdid them; we didn't do them enough.
So, sorry, am I pronouncing your name correctly? Is it Dr. Patmos? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. With the greatest respect, on what basis do you form that opinion? Have we had another pandemic like that, where you can look at the pandemic and say, okay, last time we didn't do it, this time we did.
Absolutely.
And so this time it's more effective. Last time it wasn't. So therefore,
Absolutely.
the recommendations today are better and have better health outcomes than what we did last time.
Just think back to 1918 to 1920.
Well, I wasn't alive back then.
No, that's very pertinent. Between 1918 and 1920, 50 million people around the world died. That was about 3% of the Earth's human population at that time, died of the Spanish flu. It was a pandemic that killed 3% of the entire global population of human beings. That disease affected primarily young, healthy men, not old and sick people. And we had a very disparate response. The city of Philadelphia rejected masks. They rejected social distancing. They rejected all of the evidence at the time that was recommended by the public health experts. Los Angeles did the exact opposite. They embraced all of these measures. The difference in mortality between the two cities was striking and dramatic and very well known in medical history. In Philadelphia, there were so many dead and so many dead bodies, they didn't have enough room in the morgues. Sound familiar? They were piling the bodies on street corners in the winter in 1918 and 19 in Philadelphia. In Los Angeles, the death rate was much less. But that's not
the evidence that occurred. That's not the evidence that occurred. And you know this. That's not the evidence that occurred during COVID. Those places that had more liberal positions during COVID didn't have a significantly higher mortality rate, right? Yes. Those places that had a significantly higher mortality rate were places like the United States, the UK, and Australia, where we happen to have higher levels of obesity. But we're going to ignore those comorbidities?
Comorbidities are important, but they're not the total. The reason the United States did such a terrible job with COVID, the reason we had the highest mortality was because of Donald Trump.
Oh, because of Donald Trump.
So I would like to interject real quick. I
can't let that slide.
Let me interject.
I'm not American. Hang on. I'm not American, right? So I'm not going to get involved in your politics, right? If you guys hate Donald Trump, that's fine. If you guys love Donald Trump, that's no. Sorry. If you guys hate Donald Trump, no problems. If you love Donald Trump, no problems. But your country, just like most of the other Five Eyes nations, with the notable exception of New Zealand, have different states and different territories whose health decisions are made by the health ministers or health people in those states. So what? Are you truly, honestly trying to tell me, because you hate Donald Trump, right, that the high death rate in the United States is caused by Donald Trump? not caused
Absolutely.
by any other health issues, not caused by any other health ministers, but it's because of Donald Trump. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, the disaster in the United States, the mortality of the United States, 1.2 million people died. It's well established. 300,000 to 400,000 of them died unnecessarily due to vaccine refusal. Trump's alignment with the anti-vax movement was responsible for that. He threw Fauci under the bus. He got rid of Birx, got rid of all the experts.
So I take it. So I take it when Kamala Harris.
Fake experts.
I have a question for you, Dr. Patmos.
Yes.
Are we looking at a long-term trend of differential health outcomes between the red states and the blue states?
There's no question. The Republican states suffered significantly more. There was a political mortality gap. Republicans and people who lean that direction didn't get vaccinated. They died in much greater numbers. So there's no question about it. The GOP strategy of anti-vaccine, pro-ivermectin, America's frontline doctors, that whole strategic approach that was cooked up by Steve Bannon killed 300,000.
So how do we fix that? Because it's over. It seems like science skepticism is going to continue to screw over people of certain political leanings. How do you fix that?
We are in the dark ages now. We're entering the Middle Ages. We're going back in time. We now have no way to filter out fake experts with false resumes. They're on TV all the time. These are doctors who do not have their credentials, and they're on Fox News every day telling you they're experts. They're not. I vetted their resumes. The resumes are fraud. They don't have the degrees. And spewing misinformation.
I was just going to interject real quick.
Dr. Patmos.
Shaq, you've dominated the conversation. Shaq, please allow somebody else to talk. Shaq, I would like to talk right now, please. Shaq, hold on 1 second. Now, Doc, I completely agree with what you stated about Donald Trump because, yes, he did go on the campaign against the own vaccine that his administration actually pushed through. He actually did cause a spike in poison control when he told people to take household cleaning supplies to the virus itself. Yeah, he did a whole bunch of bad stuff, and that's that whole campaign against science. So my question to you comes back to somewhat of what Rick was actually asking about, because I mean, as you see, that same conversation is happening right here, and I want to avoid that conversation because I don't think it's helpful at this moment. I would like to know what are some of the best places to go to get the information that would be helpful as an individual, say a layman like myself, who's not in the medical field. Actually, everybody on here is a layman like me. Nobody's in the medical field except for you. What are some good places for us to go and say, okay, now I see a little bit more information. Now I can ask my doctor an intelligent question about, say, for example, COVID, or say, for example, any of the other actual virus outbreaks, because we're guaranteed another outbreak is going to happen. So where are some safe places for us to go?
Yes. In the Infectious Disease Society of America is authoritative, and their website is open. You don't have to be a member. There's no paywall. Anybody can log into the website for the Infectious Disease Society of America. There they have updated guidelines that are vetted and analyzed and critiqued. They go through all the literature. They explain what literature is junk and what literature is good. And they have guidelines and recommendations there for doctors to follow. But the layperson can certainly log into the website for the Infectious Disease Society of America. CDC has a great website, but it is hard to use. It's very dense and it's very technical. But CDC has a great website. I think the most important thing is to ask your doctor, but hopefully your doctor is getting information from the right place. And your doctor should be getting information from UpToDate. No one should be getting information from Fox News.
Just don't ask them the wrong questions, right? Just don't ask them the wrong questions.
Hold on. So I'm a
like seriously, and again, with the greatest respect, doctor, with the greatest respect. No, and I mean this. We look. Okay, you guys are American. You guys are American. Right? I respect that. I know you guys think that you're really special. You have more freedom than the rest of us, right? You're the greatest country on earth. You guys are the geniuses of the world. Jatomi, I'm trying to give you guys some sarcastic compliments here, because the rest of us look at you
We got
with
that.
with
We're
with,
just
with,
getting
with puppy
tired of
dog eyes
the
of such great
filibuster.
admiration, right? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. When your country says something and other countries have a different opinion, are our health experts, in your opinion, are our health experts not as well qualified? Before you answer that, are our health experts not as experty as you guys? Because it's interesting, right? When you guys go around the world on your mass media and tell us, oh, healthcare in America is dreadful, right? Healthcare in America costs 18% of the GDP, which is approximately double the amount of the GDP which is cost by every other OECD, or forget the OECD, the major Western countries. But it just so happens to be that in the United States, unlike any other Western country, they lobby universities, pharmaceutical companies, lobby universities and tell them that they need to reduce the numbers of doctors that graduate. So you guys have half the level of doctors and nurses than the rest of us have. And just by coincidence, you happen to have double the cost of healthcare. Are the rest of us around the world supposed to sit there and go, oh my goodness, America, they've got more freedom than us. They're amazing. Oh, wow. When they come up, when they come up with studies which has been funded by the very same groups, by the very same big pharmaceutical companies, they funded these studies. And then they sit there and tell us that if you merely ask a question, you're a heretic. Really?
I never see that. I go to medical meetings all the time. We ask questions all the time. We debate. You get 10 doctors in a room, you're going to get 11 opinions. That's why we need the World Health Organization to help coordinate pandemic response. With that, I have to run. We have a boat to catch. We're going scuba diving this morning, so I'm going to have to bug out. I thank you so much for the opportunity to participate. I hope that's okay. I wish you all peace and love.
I did mean to offend you, Doctor. I didn't mean to offend you.
He's going scuba diving fly anyway.
We're going scuba diving. I've got a date with a shark.
All right. Okay. We'll see.
Bye-bye.
Very interesting.
All right. Now what are we going to argue about?
But I don't think, Rick, I don't think there's an argument. I actually don't. I don't understand why anybody would take a counter position to what I'm saying here, right?
It's
During
because
COVID,
your position's so horrible.
Yeah, of course. Okay, let me rephrase.
You know why your position is so horrible? Is because you legitimately just told a doctor that they are just completely wrong. Just because they point out the fact, yes, you did. Just because they point out the fact that Donald Trump campaigned against his own vaccine, then you turned it into, well, you liberals, you Americans, you this and that, rather than actually looking at the fact. That is why your position is wrong. You don't care because your head's too big and your ego is way even bigger. So yeah, I'm not today. I'm not taking anything from you, Shaq. I'm sorry. It's just getting really old.
You normally let me talk to you. You normally let me talk.
Yes,
you normally aren't a prissy little bitch. Just today you're going to be a prissy little bitch. Okay.
Just like I did today.
Actually, there were a couple of takeaways I got from this. Several of them. One thing is to go look it up to date, which is apparently a good tool, because something that Rick and Dr. Patton says is medical science. They double the amount of knowledge every like 73 days. It's kind of incredible. The number two is go to Infectious Disease Society of America. I didn't even know it existed.
But not of Australia. But not of Australia, right? Not of Australia. Don't go to the Infectious Disease Society of Europe. Yeah. Don't go to the Infectious Disease Society of Australia. Don't go to the Infectious Disease Society of anywhere else. Just go to the Infectious Disease Society of America.
He was being nice
again. Why are you just talking over everybody?
The doctors in America are better than the doctors in Australia. You should have just said it. It's absolutely true. and I'll tell you why we're better. We
Oh
have
yeah, I'd love to hear
330
this.
million.
Yeah.
We have 330 million people. Your tiny country has like 33 million. Our top 1% are bigger, badder, and stronger than your top 1%.
One second, I thought you were talking about doctors. I thought you were talking about doctors.
Just
I thought you were talking about doctors.
in your lane, buddy.
I thought you were talking about doctors. Hey, trust fund baby. I thought you were talking about doctors. You're telling me about how the doctors in America are better. Can we get back to that?
He was being nice not to say that.
Okay, we'll get back to that.
Okay.
But Nick,
so you
that is actually a great takeaway, Nick, about the infectious disease.
So you Americans, right? You Americans are so fantastic at healthcare, but yet you have the highest rate of heart disease, the highest rate of obesity. You have the highest, dreadful rates of healthcare. You have double the cost. You have double the cost of health of providing healthcare than any other of your Western colleagues, right?
Let's
amazing, America! I love your country, but don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Let's move on to a more fun topic. I have a more fun topic. So,
g'day, Lewis. How you going, buddy? I haven't seen you for what? Has it been like 2 years since I've seen you? How are you?
You know why? Because I come on, I take over, and they don't want me here.
That's the problem I've got. That's the problem I've got, right? And they're your compatriots in America.
I have a little thing to say, and then I have a question for everybody here. My question is, but let me preface it by saying the one way I use AI is I look at AI pictures of naked ladies because I like naked ladies, and B, I like seeing what new perversions it comes up with. I just took a look for the first time today, and the new perversion is ladies who are part cows. They have cow ears. They have like cow skin. They have
cosplay. I'm in.
All right. So my question for you guys is,
how are you
all right, how are you using AI? Shaquille, how are you using AI? Lewis, how are you using AI?
Rick, I'm not going to use AI, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my childhood. I'm going to watch Total Recall. I'm going to see a chick with 3 tits. That's enough for me.
I'm in the whole conversation. I'm in. Rick, my world is full of AI, dude. I mean, I'll go to Comic-Cons every weekend.
Okay.
So it's
and same with me, Rick. You know I'm in gaming, so AI is everything.
Dude,
gaming, art.
I didn't know this was going on.
Jatovi has to use AI because there's no comedic value in him otherwise.
Dude, but I'm just
because most Jack is smart in AI, even though he needs a diet plan from AI. Ooh.
Hey, Jatovi, AI fucking learns from me, sweetheart. Let me tell you that right now.
Dude, I jump in.
It feels from all of us. All our thoughts end up getting turned into AI.
So while Jatovi's breaking up, right? Let me just say to you, Rick, right? California liberal, right? And Larry, I'll exclude you from this because I don't know that much about you. But wow, really? The rebellious spirit of our childhoods has now morphed into, oh my God, government says this. Oh my goodness. The medical profession says this. We should listen to them. We trust government. Oh, wow. What are you guys, school prefects? Seriously? Seriously?
Here's the question. Why in the world should we listen to you?
Don't listen to me. No, you don't have to listen to me. I'm the moron. I'm a complete moron. No problem. You're going to listen to government. You're going to listen to government. Those are the people you're going to listen to. Really?
I'm much better listen to them than you.
What happened? Once upon a time in your generation, they were painting flowers on their VW combis and shit. They were smoking dope. They were cutting fetuses out of pregnant women with Manson and shit. What the hell is this?
So I've had a number of medical issues, and I've had some good treatment, and I've had some treatment that was not good. And so, but when I roll the dice, I tend to go with doctors, and I do my own research. I try to find out what's going on, but then I go with doctors instead
Yeah.
of lunatics. Like America's Frontline Doctors is a group of lunatic doctors who spread COVID misinformation, but I try to find doctors who don't suck. And I've had doctors who've sucked. Right now, I think my doctors are good. But yeah, you got to roll the dice and go with
Rick. When I was 8 years old, right? A magnificent thing that myself and my other 8-year-old mate, we came up with this plan. It was awesome, right? Because where I lived, it was at the bottom of a hill, and I had a skateboard and had a bike, right? And I couldn't skate because it was just dreadful. So my friend said to me, hey, why don't you tie this Oki strap? It's like an elastic strap, right? Why don't you tie that around me, okay? And, thank you, Larry. I love you. Why don't you tie this like elastic strap around me, right? And ride down the hill as fast as you can, right? And I'll be on the skateboard, and we'll see what happens. Now, his mother and my mother were totally against this idea. They thought it was dreadful. Well, our mothers went out to the cafe to get a cake and coffee. So I go up to my old man. I'm like, hey, can I borrow the tape and this and that? So I take my mate up, right? And I went pissing down this hill. And my mate yells out, don't go over the grate. Don't go over the grate, whatever you do. Well, I misheard him. I thought he said to me, go over the grate. So I went over the grate. He followed. He went ass up into nowhere. He had a grazed knee and he had a grazed hand, and it was terrible, right? Awful situation. Now, thankfully, or not thankfully, as the case may be, my mother and his mother happened to come home just around about that time that he went ass up into the neighbour's yard. Now, my mother's a nurse, and his mother's a nurse. So they went and cared for him, and they said to me, how could you do such a terrible thing? I thought, well, Dad said we could do it. No, don't listen to your father. Right. Now, listen. When it comes to healthcare advice or anything else, if you guys, you loving,
what in the world did we just listen to?
Shut up, Jacoby. Shut up, Jacoby. I'm right here now, right? No, I'm right here. I'm right at my punchline. If you loving, soft, liberal Democrats want to be mummy boys, that's okay. That's okay with the rest of us. But please don't tell me that I can't hang out with my dad and do really stupid, dumb male shit. Okay,
What in the world?
Just because your testosterone levels are a little lower than everybody else's, don't make me have to put up with it because I want a grazed knee. I want to fuck my mate up.
Just to point out, you just said a whole bunch of nothing just to come up with something to say, well, don't say I can hang out with my dad. You know who took care of you when you injured yourself? It was your mother. You just stated that. What was your mother in? Your mother was in the medical industry. So you trusted your mother over your father in your injury. So please, you're done. Move on.
Jacoby, sweetheart, Jacoby, right? Look, I love you. I know you're a little bit thin-skinned, right? I know you're a little bit prissy.
No,
right? I get it, sweetheart. No, I get it. No, I really do. I get it. When I come to North Carolina, I'm going to buy you some of that, that Nivea cream and shit the girls wear. I'm going to buy you some, right?
It's funny how you know about it.
Maybe we'll go for a trip to Victoria's Secret. I will actually do that for you because I know how much of a sweetheart that you really are. Right?
It's okay. I
get it. And I don't love my mother more than my father. It's just that, we love each other differently, sweetheart. That's all it is, Mark.
Okay, but you just said a story about how you got injured.
And as for me, preferencing one over the other and being really biased and politically incorrect, Jacoby, You,
Larry, put
Mark,
me on the top
and
rope.
Nick,
Coming off the top rope in the next one.
you, Mark, and
Take
Nick
it
have
over, Rick.
all said to me,
We got 5 minutes
oh,
left, and you're still
Shaquille,
talking.
why do you show up on these American shows? Why do you do it?
Why
We
does
don't
the Australian show up on the
understand.
American shows?
Well,
I
I'm
don't
just
care.
trying to bring some
Rick, take it away.
masculinity to you, soft
You
cocks.
start
That's all.
talking over him, Rick.
Hold
We'll
on,
listen to
hold
you
on.
more so than we'll listen to Shaq.
All right, so I have very high testosterone, and I like doing manly
No,
stuff.
you don't, Rick. You just gave us a show 3 weeks ago where you said you had low levels of
Oh, good
testosterone.
God.
You didn't.
Yes, you did.
Shaq,
3
are you
weeks
going to let
ago,
the
you
man talk?
said
Shaq,
I
is
have
this
low
the Shaq show?
levels of
Hold on,
testosterone. That's a good thing.
Shaq, let the
You
man
just said
talk.
that like 3 weeks ago.
All right, so
Let
maybe
the man keep.
maybe my testosterone is dropping a little bit, but I think it's probably still pretty high. Yeah, my dick's a little bit more noodly than it used to be, but but anyway, I like doing manly stuff. Like I like getting in fights, getting tackled. A guy bit me. I didn't like that. I mean, it was okay, except I didn't like the germ. But anyway, this is how I deal with medicine. I had a hernia for 8 years. And I didn't get it fixed. I just pushed it back in because I read a study that said that the mesh that they use to repair it doesn't lead to good outcomes. But eventually, I went to a doctor, said maybe, and the doctor said, "Well, now you're being an idiot now because it's 8 years later and the mesh is better." And I trusted the doctor, got it repaired with the mesh. Now it's better.
Rick, I love you, man. I really do. I love you, but like, if Mark says when I come to the United States he's going to punch my face in, right? I might pull on a couple of boxing moves, right? Jotovi, I'm not too worried about because he's a soft cock. But seriously, dude, like I love you. And I secretly look forward to
Lewis's turn.
Are you
Lewis,
truly trying to tell me that you're a fighter?
Somebody mute Shaq.
Really? With those skinny little arms of yours, you're trying to tell me that you're a fighter?
Somebody
Come on,
please
Rick.
mute Shaq.
I'm a terrible fighter. I forget to punch back, but I can take a punch pretty well. Especially if the guy hitting me is drunk. Drunks have bad aim.
Well, that's me on a Friday night. Like, what are we talking about now? What else are you going to get in a fight? It's going to be on a Friday night with a drunk Australian. Come on now, Rick.
No, I mean, no, I wouldn't fight you because you probably know how to fight. Plus, you know how to headbutt. Headbutting is bad. So come here, mate. Come here, mate. I want to tell you something. And then
Hey,
you
Shaquille.
smash your forehead into my face. I'm not going to do
Shaquille.
that.
I just met with your favorite people, which was diplomats and lawyers. So I just met with them and the Hayti had about an hour and a half meeting with them. So they were here meeting. So your favorite people.
Larry, before you speak, if we're in a fight, right, who would you prefer to have on your
The
side?
man's name is Lewis.
Jotovi and Rick, or just me? Who would you
The
prefer?
man's name is Lewis.
Well,
Lewis.
you see,
Sorry.
Mark knows my background, and Nick knows my background. Jacoby knows my background. So I'm the tower of power. I'm too sweet to be sour. I can be funky like a monkey. I bust through ceilings and I break down doors. So it's like, if you want me and your partner, brother, I'm all yours. But
You're a wide winner.
what I want to say is I want to go back up a little bit to Adam's comment where he says that I'm the type of guy to ask girls out that are way out of my league, but I still land them. You see my co-host, baby. And Mark knows that for a fact. So does Adam. Because like diamonds are forever, baby. So is Lewis Perry. Of course, I land all the hot chicks. And now I knew it, Lewis, aka Larry, is a nutcase. Oh, baby, tune into the Angry Geek Show right here on Podtv, and you see how much of a nutcase I am. Nick will tell you, Mark will tell you, Rick will tell you, everybody will tell you. Tune in tonight, 7 p.m. live on Podtv, Facebook, and you'll see how much of a nutcase I am, brother. Oh yeah, dig it. So anyway, I gotta
Depending on
go.
the type
Hey,
of
Lewis.
fight, may
Yes,
want
Lewis,
me on
you
your
got-
side because you don't wade into the middle of a fight because then you get hit by both people. You pick somebody, you come up behind them, and you put them in a sleeper. And if you
$30